Today we're going to be making a paludarium for some of these very special frogs. These are Fire Bellied Toads, and I got some for free and I need to make them a home. I want them to have lots of swimming space as well as plenty of land to explore, hunt, and burrow in. I've never made a paludarium before, and I went through a lot of mistakes in this build. I think in the end though, it all worked out, so let's get started. As this was a bigger build, I didn't really film much of my decision making, but I still show the build process, so don't worry. I also have plenty of extra materials, and I started off with these two big stones that would help me hide the plastic risers in the back. These support my land bits and also act as a drainage. I need to make the rock wall or something else to finish hiding the plastic before I can move on. I tried to be lazy and just use cork bark to hide the plastic, but it kind of creates more big gaps that become their own issues, and I'm not a fan of the overall look. I ended up adding these two containers of soil that are a mix of mosses, charcoal, and reptile mix, and the whole thing drains into the risers below. It ends up being pretty tall, which is good for the water feature, but it also means I need to cover some more plastic up. So after I gave up on the cork bark idea, and cut down the top of the container so that they would be at a more manageable height, I used a bunch of small stones that I crushed from my yard, and I stacked them with silicone. As you can see, I still use some cork bark, but not nearly as much, and I think the stones look a lot better. I also wanted to keep the bark so I could use it in parts of the background. I'm making a putty with the soil mix and silicone, and I'll use it to tidy the land bits up and make sure the frogs don't get into any crevices that they're not supposed to be in. I also incorporate another lower island to the left with similar drainage, just smaller. I continue playing around with small stones, sphagnum moss, and some alder logs that I stole from my backyard, and I keep adding to the terrestrial bits. Once I liked how everything looked, I siliconed it in place and added some houseplants and other plants given to me, and I added a black background to hide the wall. I hope the plants eventually cover the back, and all that's left to do is add some water and the inhabitants. Luckily, nothing went wrong when I added the water, and I also added plenty of springtails to the land, along with leaf litter and the frogs. The frogs were happy to explore, they enjoyed the water, climbed the rock wall, and overall seemed very comfortable in their new home. For a few days, all was well, until for about a week, I couldn't see any of the frogs, which didn't concern me, as I knew even if they had gotten into some of the crevices, they could get out and they wouldn't hurt themselves. And I was right, they would come out and keep hanging out in the front, but they were slowly destroying the scape, and maybe it was my fault for using some old silicone or the way I let it cure, but they ended up tearing down the rock wall, and mostly ruining the scape. I was tired of them getting into places I tried hard to keep them out of, so I went through 2 more iterations of the rock wall until finally my scape was fully frog-proof. And it's been perfect ever since. Although right now, maybe because of the seasons, they burrowed into the land bit and they just sit in a hole waiting for crickets to fall in, and I don't get to see them much. But it's okay because they're not the only inhabitants in this tank. The fish in here are longfin white cloud mountain minnows, which can tolerate a wide variety of parameters, and they seem to really enjoy their home. They've even bred multiple times in here, although the fry sometimes struggle to grow, as even if the parents don't hunt them, I think they eat each other. And there's another predator in this tank, but that's for another video. first paludarium, so of course I made many mistakes. And I still don't know if all the plants will survive, and some of them have already began to die, while others are spreading fast. I'll remove any big leaves and let the springtails do the rest. For now, the most important thing is that the animals in here are happy, and I'd suggest that they are. I also added this waterfall feature with adjustable flow, with a diverting rock that creates 2 streams on the main stone. Overall, this build was not that hard, and I think my next paludarium will be much better, but that won't happen for a while. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll really start trying to pump more videos out as I have a lot of projects going on right now. Make sure to like and subscribe, and